I'm seeing is that is either more this toxic level of I'm a provider, I'm a masculine, I'm an alpha male, blah blah blah, or is this less of this beta, they don't want to talk, or there's no middle ground, like Lovely was saying, like this actual person who wants to know your vision, wants to know your goals, how can we build this together collectively, right? So it's a hard place to kind of figure out what's going on with these battle of sexes, seriously.
It really is. But let's say hi. We're going to say hi to everybody. Let's welcome
Hey,
to another episode of the Financial Griot. It's lovely. We're going to be talking about goals and visions today. And Lawrence dropped a bomb on one of these last episodes. So
it wasn't a bomb. Yeah, I dropped the other bomb. You said stop prostituting these men. So
we're like, whoa, like we're just going crazy,
like I was out there. Damn, I felt abused like by that statement.
Like that's
it was intense. It was intense.
Yeah, I think majority of that conversation had to deal with, or at least started pivoting towards this constant conversation between men and women in this day and age. I guess what they're calling the modern man and woman, which is true because we are moving away from an agrarian society, meaning a society that farms, a society that works. We're moved away from the industrial society in which everybody was going to the machine plants. They were doing all of the hard labor. All these blue collar jobs kind of fade away. So now you're getting to a point where the modern society where people are either working from home, working financial services jobs, basically a lot of services jobs themselves, either be financial, medical, so on and so forth. And people are literally, clocking in and getting paid really well, but there's a whole segment of society that isn't. So there's people that have to go to work. There's people that aren't making as much as a quote unquote, the six-figure person. There's a lot more people making less than $40,000 a year than we consider. And I was, just to be fair, I'm just like, there's a lot of people making less than 50. Just to kind of be completely out there. A lot of people making less than 50. And we've been seeing from different podcasts, different, Clubhouse streets, or even like YouTube, a deep conversation between a lot of women voicing their opinion about the type of guy that they want. Basically, they want a guy that's making one. He's always had to be over 6 feet, so that haven't changed. That's not going to change tomorrow. He gotta look great for some reason. Hey, that's not going to take chiseled chest, chiseled jaw, and a bearded look.
Or taller than you, just taller than you. Because I'm 5'9". I'll take anyone that's taller than me. That's nice.
Damn, you take anyone. Look at that. It's a shame.
No, not in that. Shut up.
All right, and then you have on the others, and they're also asking for the guy to start. I don't know how, but compress time, become a lawyer, become a doctor, become an engineer, where you never went to school for none of that, right? That's just one thing. And then now in the opposite sense, they're basically guys a lot of them being very jaded, very pissed off about these new metrics, which is brand new to them. They're pretty much pissed, and they're basically, they're commanding ladies, which they sometimes call females, which I hate when they do that. Like they're commanding ladies to either lose weight, look a certain way, and somehow be fit, feminine, and friendly all the time, and provide acts of service all the time. That means she better be clean the house at all times. I have no idea.
Don't be challenging. Don't challenge.
Never challenge anything. Follows his lead right down into the crevice of the world. Right over the edge. Just, like he has no goals. Like just follow me. Period. And then also cook and all, and have his kids. And I think that's where we landed.
Yeah, you gotta have kids. So that's
now that I've caught everybody up, this is where the conversation starts.
But wait, Lawrence, did you mention what you said at the end? Well, how could he help you about your vision if he doesn't even have a vision for himself?
Yeah, that's basically it. I think a lot of ladies are very kind of confused, and they want these guys to step up. And I've had this conversation with everybody. Like, I can't ask these guys to step up after 20 years of never asking anything. They've already cemented their roles. All their schooling is done. Like, if they even went to school enough to get to anything, a lot of them don't have these skills. They don't have these things, and they're not going to be magically the next year going to end up making $100K a year. Majority of guys that exist out there are making $50K or less. some of them are very great guys. Some guys, they pretty much they're school administrators. They work in the medical field, maybe not the doctor themselves, but they might even be nurses. There's some guys that are literally nurses,
surgical assistants.
Yeah, they're dental techs, this and that. There's a whole slew of guys that exist out there, but yet this new metric is really pissing a lot of guys off because they realize that, hey, I only make 50. And then the lady wants me to bring in 100. How am I going to make up this difference? And I think that's where a problem is.
It makes me think that, is that only on the social media culture? Because from what I see, women who are dating and who they have doubled down as their spouses or their partner, right? They don't meet any of those metrics. I don't see them meeting any of those metrics. So it for me, I don't know if that's only the case for social media, or is just solely just, African American. We're first generation Haitian Americans. So that kind of makes me think of how is actually being seen, or is it being receptive on the beyond the masses of what we see just on social media. So that's something to think about.
Do we think that there's possibility that there is what we're saying that we desire, putting that out there, like saying, hey, I want a six-figure person, this, that, and a third, because we see that being said by everyone else, and it's kind of like, okay, I want to fall in line with what I'm seeing. But honestly, there's this cool guy that I'm speaking to right now, and maybe he's not making six figures, but he's really nice and he's really doing, right by me. But now he's not social media. He's not the man that I want to post on social media because he's not the essential person that's going to get me the likes or the looks. But honestly, I really love this person. I think there's probably a lot of that happening where there's like a tribal type of sense of what it is to quote unquote fall in love. But when you look at the statistics of how much an average person makes, it's like, okay, sorry guys. Gotta put all these in focus. You heard it on the podcast. Let me put everybody on Do Not Disturb. Oh, both my phones are on Do Not Disturb. I don't know how that happened. Anyways.
You stopped this entire thing just to let this ride out. You could have even kind of kept it moving, kind of trailed off, passed it over to somebody else. You're like, I'm gonna have this conversation by myself, but we just let her happen.
Nope, they just let me drown. But no, I think there is definitely something to be said about the tribalism and social media, where women and men feel the need, like, okay, I'm hearing this messaging all the time, so this is the type of person that I need to do. I'm tired, and I'm going to say this is a rant for 2 seconds. I'm tired of hearing this is what a woman should, or this is what a man should, when we are individuals. What may work in my house may never work in your house, but it doesn't mean that something's wrong with your household. We need to look at fundamentally of how we each come into this world with a purpose and a meaning, and we're trying to dumb it down to a checklist. And I've just seen too many people really trying to check off these things, not realizing that, yes, I know there's a distinction between women and men. However, I can't keep saying that this is what men should definitely for sure do, and this is what women definitely for sure do, when personality types are different, how we're raised is different. And there's so much nuance and depth that comes with building a life with someone, that I just think that we're trying to paint a brush over every single aspect of life. This is what you need to do. Six-figure man, the high value man. What the heck is these terms? Who are creating them? Where did it start? And we're giving meaning to something that really honestly is so superficial that we're missing out on the depthness of the human experience. Those are just my thoughts on it.
Hit you with the deafness of the human experience. It's I love when Lovely is talking, nobody can actually see us, but we're actually leaning back. People out here thinking to the sky. It get really deep. It's a whole other thing, and she's just going on with her rant. But ultimately, I agree. I think something to do with the society, the way we frame it and what we see, does eventually change the person. So I think as a society, we allow things like I forget what they call, the Desperate Housewives, or the whatever housewives of media, to portray a hyper reality of which everybody is super fashionable, super pressed and polished.
It's called the Desperate Housewives syndrome, actually.
Oh, it probably is at this point.
It's a
Like,
term. It's a term that, yeah, you're right. It's associated with everything that you mentioned with that, how it curated the culture of those
yeah.
housewives and reality show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because they get a lot of feedback from the audience, either being on social media and so on and so forth, and then they incorporate a new feedback that they have, or it empowers them to do even more. So therefore, the audience learns some new messed up ideas, and then they just keep. It's like a vicious circle of both sides actually losing some bit of their humanity. And I think that's the important thing there, because we're moving to such a point that we're not even personally happy with the choices that we make in our partners. I've known friends that pretty much because I guess there's one homegirl I have, like her guy's a little husky. Because he's husky, she doesn't show him. Like she doesn't show him at all. And it's just the way it is. Like I'm pretty sure if this guy was strapping young lad with
Is he
six
tall?
pack to days, he's probably like my height, maybe a little taller.
Short.
Yeah, like damn. like I'm still here.
Like Lauren is still in the group chat.
Yo, do I need to get the hell out of here?
You're my height. You're my height, Lauren. I think you're my height.
Okay. But ultimately, there are people curating their lives differently based off what they perceive that other people would love. I had to explain that to my friends a couple years back. And like one of those random conversations, just let them know, like, I'm happy if you're happy, period. And just want to let that kind of sink into people's heads, because sometimes you're going to run into somebody that doesn't fit the quote unquote societal mold of what people perceive you need to quote unquote end up with, this checklist. Like, bruh, if you end up with a girl that's a nurse out here in these streets, say that's you, man. Just do you be happy. If she loves you, you love her, that's fine. Or even I had to explain to a buddy of mine, like, if you're gay, I don't care, dog. Like, it is what it is. I will be at the wedding, bro. Like, it is what it is. Because sometimes some people hide them so much of themselves that in truth, they might not even be into quote unquote, the type of person or that you might perceive them to be with. Not in a heteronormative or heteronormative relationship. It might just be in a different type of relationship. You know what? I'm like, I will be there two in the game. Let's go. But until we say to each other that it's okay, then everybody perceive it is not okay. And that's what creates the problem. Everybody's searching for the perfect. And that's kind of what goes back to that wedding vow that I dropped. The entire title of the wedding vow is the ideal of the imperfect. And it wasn't just like a wedding vow for me to Doreen, but it's ideal to basically speak to the entirety of the crowd itself, to let the crowd know that we need to move beyond the imperfect, move beyond these ideologies that we have, these checklists, these frameworks, because those are the type of stuff that will mess you up in this day and age.
Absolutely. You guys touch on some great things about these checklists and these metrics and following the what they call it.
So that's all you're doing nowadays, Atlanta? That's what you're doing? You're like, yeah, you guys touched on some good stuff. Yeah. That's what you're doing. Like, that's what you're doing for the people.
No, it is. It's a great topic because we're seeing more and more people kind of letting go of who they really are and kind of being subjective to what they're seeing and what they're hearing and following this fantasy world that is not real, right? And it's skew your reality to think that every guy's gonna fly you out to Dubai. And I just want to put out there, like, a trip to Dubai is not that much when you think about it, right? It's like going to Las Vegas at this point. So, but when it's not practical. It's really not. And when you think of, you've been married over a year now, LG, with D. So it's just like marriage every day is pretty boring. When you're in a relationship for a long time, it's like, yeah, you do everyday things. You go to work, you figure out what you're going to eat. You make these decisions together as a couple and whatever decision that you're going to make in the future. So it's really about those small things and in betweens of how you grow as a couple, how you evolve. Things that we're seeing, flying people out, all this other things is skewing our reality, and it's not real, it's not practical, and it's not something that deep down inside that you really value, right? Because if you're a type of person that don't really care about traveling. Who cares if he flies you out or not to this exotic place? Just to take pictures or just to say that you're on a vacation. A vacation could be just going out of town to literally an hour drive to Miami or somewhere, and that's nice enough. Or it could just be having a picnic at your, local town or whatever. And I think we kind of lose those nuances of what we really care about, you know? And I like the fact that you kind of touch down on, love who you love, and no matter what, if at the end of the day, if you're happy, and people around you who genuinely care for you, they want you happy. And whatever form that looks like, whatever, sexual orientation that may looks like, doesn't matter. If you're my friend, if you're my family, I just want you happy. And that's something we have to kind of, ask ourselves, is this person making me happy? Are we happy together? Is it something that I can live with? Just be honest with yourself. But I try not to, look too much on the social media when it comes to that. It's horrible, man, when people just like keep sharing about that, both sexes, men and women. So
I'm gonna say this straight up off the cuff, that gay marriage, well, gay parties are the best I've ever been. Period. Like, so I'm all for. What I mean, like, I'm waiting for my friends to come out. Like, one of them, like, hey, I came out gay. I'm like, freaking yes, because the party will be lit. Like, it's not. They don't just party okay. They party lit. So that's where I want to be. I'm gonna need to get a friend that comes out gay. I'm gonna need this in my life.
Yeah, I heard the outings and gatherings just is another level. So that's
Lit.
funny.
You know what's you know what the reason why I think it might be very much a lot more fun, because everybody, at least I went to a gay establishment, gay bar in Tallahassee once called Brothers. Because a friend of mine, she was like, hey, let's go there. And me, her, and her cousin, we went and we had a great time. And I realized probably because everybody that was going in there were shedding a piece of themselves. Because instead the outside, free. Yeah, they were freer. Because they were freer, we were just having a good time without all the extra layers of anything. It's like, yo, you want to drink? Oh, boom. Oh, you want to have a good time to dance for? Yeah. And it was just a lot more fun because everybody is truly a piece of themselves. We're
no
really
judgment,
here.
No anything. Everyone just yeah.
I try to tell a lot of my friends where I found my true piece of happiness, or that recentered me back in 2012, was in salsa. Because I joined that salsa dance thing. I started, practicing the dance, and they're like, hey, come to the party. And then the same thing happened there, where it's like all these people, there was you don't have to be dressed to the nines. You don't have to do all of that. You just show up at the door. They don't even bat you down. You're like, bruh, I'm waiting to get pat down. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm missing this action. And lo and behold, you go in there and you realize everybody's just here to have a good time. They dropped the mask of it all. I think we're doing ourselves very much a disservice. And I think part of it, like, and you hinted towards it earlier, is that maybe it's part of the Black culture that is probably toxic. And that's the sad part. If that's the case, because I don't know too much of everybody else, but based off what I've seen, I think is a lot of, at least the infighting between Black people is gone to the nth degree. And it might just be because we've ingested too much toxicity through media and so on and so forth.
We're not one set of people, we have all different types of hobbies, interests. LG is a bachata, like he loved his salsa music. I love working out. I love traveling. I lived in a different country for a few years. Lovely is into tech and social media building, influencers and small businesses. We're into a lot of things. And I think that where we need to kind of get to a point is to be okay that we're different. It's not one style of Black culture. It's not. A lot of people are really into like some really cool hobbies and interests, and explore that. If that's not something you may think that you like, that's something you should question about. What do you like, right? Because aside from your 9 to 5, who are you really? Working only just a chunk of our life, but there's someone else, an identity outside of our job, outside of our corporate life or our service job, however job that you do have. So that's something that we have to think about. Like, we're not just this monolithic type, of people. It's ranges, it's so many levels, it's different interests, and it's a beautiful thing. But if you don't explore that, then you'll actually just be down into the barrels of just emptiness, essentially, because that's what we're leading down to. You keep feeding into this toxic thing. You're avoiding some great people, great men, great women, some great opportunities because you think that it's not cool enough. Like there's a lot of things that you'll be missing out of, and you're essentially missing out too of evolving as a person. So that's something we should kind of really think hard about when we look into these social media things that we're ingesting, because it won't be good for us in the long run.
I totally agree. I think all of this goes back to this place of identity. And when you identify yourself from by everyone else, you start to do things that are not aligned. And I think when you're out of this quote unquote alignment, it goes back to what we've been talking about since the very first episode of Financial Griot is money stories. When you don't know who you are, you then have a false view of how money works, because now your money is to impress. Your money is to spend so that other people can be impressed by you, not necessarily a wealth building asset, because you're getting validation from more things, right? So you may not be able to afford. And I always remember this one story that my friend told me. There's this lady, she was pretty known in our community at this point, and she was driving a Mercedes Benz, brand new. And he pulled me to the side and he was just like, do you have whatever? And I'm like, okay, cool. And it's later on, he was explaining to me that he had to give her $80 to fill her tank. So on the outward, right, she's driving the latest Mercedes Benz, but couldn't afford to fill her tank. And if we look at the car as a representation of who we are, like we are dressing ourselves with the latest of fashions and things like that, but we can't afford to eat healthy. We can't afford to go to a therapist. We can't afford to do these things. And then we're saying, well, I have a wealthy life, but wealth starts with how you see yourself. Wealth starts with how you manage your perception for your own internal being. That's why you manage money differently. And people always say that if you want to see what somebody values, look at their bank statements. Look at what they spend their money into, because it informs you of what you value. But we need to ask ourselves as a community, has these things brought us to a better place? Have these things made our communities and families better? And when we say there's a wealth gap, are we only talking about money, or are we also talking about there's a gap in the way we view ourselves, which also makes us feel poor? Although we may have, some people are getting more money now, but still we're not seeing a transfer of transformation in our lives because we don't have our priorities aligned in a way that's meaningful to who we are inwardly, not just to what people see outwardly.
Yeah, it's basically comes down to some people just don't have the grand vision or the grand goals in their lives. So a lot of people went to school, got the job, and they're living the life, and then they find themselves empty in that moment, and it's like, okay, so what do I do now? So without a grand scheme for your life, grand vision, a grand goal, you could kind of end up being, driving yourself down the ditch. The idea that, sometimes when the ladies are asking, hey, or the guys are asking the ladies, hey, why don't you follow me in my goals? Why don't you, follow what I do? But if I'm like, bro, but you don't have any goals. Like, I've always wanted to ask a question, like, what are your goals? And when they're asked that question, people get confronted, people get angry, people lose their temper. And it's okay to not know what your goals are. And it's been taking me like since November, of last year to really draft out my grand vision for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. It's going to take you some time. It will frustrate you, but you're not supposed to get to a place where you lash out, your lack of goals, your lack of vision, because somebody just asked you. They're just asking you. Maybe it's that moment of divine intervention where you're supposed to learn something, where somebody asks you what your goals are. Like, why don't you just go draft them down? Why don't you figure those goals out? Because those are going to really help you move forward in life. And like you said, you're going to run into different people, either it be for actual relationship you want to get into, or even just for networking, no matter what it is. Like, but if you have no goals in life, you have no purpose or destination. I think one of the number one questions women ask on a date is like, hey, what's your goals? They just drop it in there. Hey, what's your goals? Like, and times where I had no idea, it kind of messed up my shot at that person. I've learned to, ever since, get better at it. Obviously, I got married.
You didn't take that as intimidating or anything?
Oh, no, I don't take it as intimidating. You can't show in your face, man. You can't just be like, hey, completely weird. You got to, oh, okay, cool. All right, you try to diffuse it. But ultimately, I've seen a lot of people, men and women, if confronted with the idea of goals and vision, they really don't have it. And I'm like, that's fine, but you need to sit down and actually work on it. especially in this day and age when you have a lot of time and people have been clocking one too many hours on Netflix and one too many hours on Hulu. Yeah, we know way too much of what's going on with celebrity life, celebrity culture. I found out an entire island got hit by a tsunami. I'm like, what? An entire island? Nobody talking about it? The entire island. You ever, an entire nation get hit by a tsunami of 100,000 people? You think the world would actually stop? Nobody talked about it. It was the weirdest thing. And ultimately, because we're so concerned with all the extra stuff that we start losing our humanity in the process. And look at Atlanta's face. He's like, like,
I don't think you guys can hear me. I was saying that like
it's not good. I'm
like massaging some oil on my cuticles. Like,
yeah, you're like, not good. Like looking like somebody's auntie. Like, not good.
Not auntie. I am someone auntie.
Exactly. Like, not good. like when somebody getting beat, you're like, not my style, not today. But ultimately, you want that for everybody that's listening to this podcast, and not just for yourself, but also for your friends, your family, your coworkers, anybody that you love. Like, if you want to extend those moments where you really slow down, find something meaningful and say, you know, what's your goal for this year? What's your goal for the next 12 weeks? What's your goals for the next 5 years? Like, where do you want to end up? Because a lot of people don't know. And the more they don't know, they kind of just, they're driving down this road of life with no GPS, no understanding. And then they're going to blame, I guess, when you get to where you're going, you're going to be like, hey, you're going to blame the gas station. Why am I here? I'm like, hey, the gas station had no idea why you're here. Nobody knows why you're here. You need to figure it out for yourself. Like, you need to have a pattern, an overall game plan. For me, I want to retire early. That's it. That's my thing. That's whatever it is. How I get there, that's the vision. That's like how I get there. That's the planning. That's the whole joy. That's what I'm going to get to. But I need to know that. I'm trying to envision it so my identity changes around it. And then my patterns change and also my habits change to actually get me to where I'm trying to go, my destination. Ultimately, why? Why do I want to retire early? I want to retire early because maybe it opens up more time for me to help others. That's really what I'm trying to do. I want to go back to school, potentially. I want to, maybe even learn nursing because my wife has type 1 diabetes. I want to be able to be more of service to her. At some point, I want to even try culinary school. Why not learn how to cook on a high tier level? Why not? When you become so free and you have so much more time as a person to learn, now you can incorporate all these elements and maybe you can also help others learn and teach them as well. This is how you do things. Kind of like what we stated earlier. Like, I'm beginning to love cycling. I love it. I like hiking. I love it. So like there's a lot of things I don't really care for in the quote unquote the culture, like going to, the day party, going to the brunch, going to going to, going to the happy hour. Go. I wasn't trying to say brunch, but I said it.
You said day party, and we look,
everybody's eyes started shaking. I was like, oh crap, it's coming. Every episode is a thing. Hey, I'm just saying people know that I like things that are different and we're not myopic, and that's something that needs to be understood more. The type of music you listen to, the type of shows that you watch, the type of things you ingest, it might be different from your best friends, and that's okay. To me, that's okay. And that's why I'll drop it for the day. I'm gonna let y'all ride out for the end of the episode.
No, I think I totally agree with that. I think there has been this big momentum of push of sameness when the beauty is in uniqueness. And I think we need to just double down on just being able to be okay that my life's not going to look like an Instagram reel. Okay. I know you guys love to watch those reels. They're curated. I show you what I want to show you. You don't know the rest of the story. Be okay with it. It's like, it's an ad. It's not full life. And I think we need to be more open to having different experiences and also understanding that it's your life. Like, there's something. Like I made some tacos. This is a whole different story. I made some shrimp tacos and I made everything from scratch. When I tell you, I enjoyed every bite of that taco, not because I feel like I'm a world famous.
Yep, not because she's a world famous chef that got like that cutoff point. Well, she's back.
Somebody Wi-Fi.
Oh,
that Wi-Fi ain't that good in Boston. That's what we see. That's what we see.
Man, I can't understand. Are you guys good?
Yeah, we good. We hear you now. We good.
Okay, perfect. Where did I stop? I don't know. Y'all gonna lose the story.
No, the tacos, the shrimp that you're not a world famous.
Enjoy every bite of it.
Yeah, it was so meaningful. It was so good because I made it and I enjoyed every bit of it. And then that moment, I realized that for me, cooking was very therapeutic. But as I was younger, my mom used to just think that I didn't know how to cook. But, I was being spiteful just to show her, like, instead of asking me, she just assumed. So I just kind of wrote out, like, I never knew how to cook. And then when I got, like, older, she's realized, like, you is a liar. You a whole lie. I always knew how to cook. I just didn't like the fact that you just assumed that I couldn't and you made it such a big deal. Like, okay. But that was me being defiant. But anyways, those moments of me cooking and being therapeutic, I felt so good. And I'm taking time now to recognize when I feel good. When I'm doing something, even things that are hard, there's something about accomplishing it. Like I broke one of our websites. I really did. Like the event website, and I just messed it up, but I had to figure it out. And me trying to figure out the code and all this other stuff, I felt good after like realizing like you can learn, you can do hard things, and it felt good inside. And so I'm taking those moments to really pay attention to those things. We need to pay attention to how we feel. Like emotions are real. Like take stock of how you feel when you're doing things. When people are hanging out, people they don't even like. Why? If you like anime, double down your anime. Like if you like, your Star Wars, whatever it is, double down on it. It doesn't have to look like anything else because maybe God is trying to bless you, but he can't see you because you're not being you. Taking that stock of just literally expressing who you are, so much opportunities are going to come for you because so many people are not authentic. The minute that you be authentic, the doors begin to open up for you because your DNA is actually being able to be shown. That's my 2 cents. I'm gonna just go back, shrink.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to our latest episode of the Financial Griot. My name is Alanta Elson. You can find me on my IG handle at Alanta, ALAINTA. Also on the YouTube streets. I am there where they can find you guys.
I always forget which mute button I ever have, but still, you could find me on the IG and also on the website on www.theneighborhoodfinanceguy.com. And also, like I said, IG the same handle, the entire word all the way through. Do not misspell it. You're going to make yourself look embarrassed out here in these streets. So just Google it and you'll find me. I swear to you, you'll find me. And ultimately, I just want you to share this kind of information with you. Do not sit silent in your own greatness. Do not, push back in the corner. Do not hide away, just like Lovely just said. Maybe God can't see you because you're always trying to stay so quiet in the corner. So I say, always try moving in silence like a ninja. He's looking around like, why? Why?
Lovely. You're on mute.
Oh, I was like, we're missing out on so much not being who we are. And we're not saying it from a place where we've always had the answers. We're saying it, we've walked through these paths of trying to find ourselves. And we're realizing like, how can I find something that is already in me? Can't find it outwardly, it's inside. So I hope that these things help you. I know that we are the atypical financial podcast because I know some episode you're probably like, what does this have to do with money? So much, because it's building out on behavior, psychology of identity, which and then informs how you handle the other things like money, finance, financial future, literacy, health, and wealth. It all connects. So I think that we have something special here. And I hope that what you do for us and for yourself really is by liking and sharing and leaving good reviews. It allows other people to discover these type of stories, especially with 3 young Haitian American millennials. We are not the same. We're not monolithic. We each come from different backgrounds and have different experiences, but our similarities and our visions and our passions, they all make a good gumbo. Makes it really, really good and tasty. So I hope you enjoy the stories. Hope you enjoy everything that we've been doing. And by saying that you enjoy it, it's by sharing with others. Sharing is always definitely caring.
And we also have a challenge going on the entire time. The challenge is still out there. So if you get us to a certain amount of comments, it's like 50 comments, I would definitely do a free workshop. We typically do workshops. It's via Zoom. It's a one-on-one. We go all the way through. Last workshop we did was investing. I think it lasted for a good almost 4 hours because we did investing 101. So we're going to do tax planning 101 if we need to, investing 102 again, or whatever it is. Whatever you really need. But if you help us, we'll help you. That's just the promise that we have for you. With that said, we're out. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Griot podcast, powered by the Wealth Builders Collective.